a phony conjured up indictment, a head prosecutor who resigns over it, finding that it's political, a phony extradition process to give Donald Trump and his Department of Justice cover for having brought back Abrego Garcia, and new developments in the Abrego Garcia matter that's pending before a magistrate judge in Nashville, Tennessee. And I pull it all together right here on Legal AF. You're here. You might as well hit the subscribe button. Help us continue to grow this pro-democracy channel. Let's look at Abrego Garcia and the timeline related to this. Remember, he was picked up in March by ICE. He was illegally deported and removed to El Salvador. A couple of days later, he had a federal judge, Judge Xinis in Maryland, side with his wife and with him and order his return from El Salvador. And then Donald Trump took an appeal to the United States Supreme Court and lost 9-0. So since at least, you can pick many dates, but since at least April the 10th of 2025, Donald Trump's been on notice and has been ordered and commanded by the U.S. Supreme Court to bring him back. That was on April the 10th. Then starts the whole hide the ball from the judge. Treat the judge, as she once said, like a cat, and you've got a ball of string. And so they started to refuse to give her information, the Trump administration, refused to abide by her orders, refused to comply with her demands, refused. Instead, while they were in one point jerking the judge's chain, that's a legal term, in Maryland, at or around the same time, they were conjuring up a phony case against Abrego Garcia in the Middle District of Tennessee. The Department of Homeland Security, to little fanfare, announced that they had an elaborate conspiracy case involving Abrego Garcia. They announced it on the 18th of April. And we're like, oh, that's interesting. He's now a human smuggler, a drug smuggler, a gun smuggler. Where's the indictment? And then on the 21st of April, little reported, down in Tennessee, in Nashville, in the Middle District of Tennessee federal court, they filed an indictment. It was sealed. So we didn't have a lot of information, but we knew from the Department of Homeland Security the nature of the charges that they were trumping up, no pun intended. At the same time, they were thumbing their nose at and taunting Judge Xinis, Judge Boasberg, handling related matters related to the 250 other people who are suffering in a prison in El Salvador, thumbing their nose at the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, who ruled against them not once but twice, thumbing their nose at the Supreme Court at or around the same time they filed an indictment on the 21st, right, of April. Now they're using that indictment, now that the judge is tightening the noose, now that the judge is threatening them and has threatened them at numerous hearings over the last several days with contempt. You're going to be found in contempt. I find you're acting in bad faith. I find you're not complying with my orders in bad faith. I find that you're not complying with my orders to turn over documents and information to the Abrego Garcia side in bad faith. That is not a dog whistle. That is an announcement by a judge that she's about to throw the book at somebody. And now, just 72 hours ago, late last week, the judge, Judge Xinis, gave the other side, the Abrego Garcia side, the permission to file a motion for contempt against the Trump administration and its lawyers. Now, suddenly, we go into the ruse, right? The distractor, right? The smoke screen for the Trump administration. Let's use the April 21st human trafficking indictment against Abrego Garcia. And now we'll claim that while we weren't able through diplomatic means to get him back, and we didn't have to listen to the orders of the Supreme Court, now we're going to bring him back under extradition, a concept where one sovereign country makes a request, a formal request through the criminal justice process to the other foreign sovereign, to the other sovereign, saying that if they have an extradition treaty or if they have some other international protocol to make a request to return somebody that's in their custody. Of course, they're in Abrego Garcia's in El Salvador in custody. Who put him there? The United States. Hey, we think you have a guy named Abrego Garcia sitting in one of your jails. Yeah, you brought him to us, and you've been paying us to house him for you ever since. well, we need him back. We need to extradite him through a process of where you're going to respect our request. And they did. They suddenly brought him back with a big fanfare announcement with Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, her handler for the Department of Justice. Oh, we're bringing him back. Not because we have to, not because the Supreme Court ordered us, because we violated his constitutional rights of due process when we loaded him onto a plane in the middle of the night to get him away from federal jurisdiction. We're bringing him back to federal jurisdiction, just not Judge Xinis. We're bringing him back to judge in Middle District of Tennessee on our terms because it's extradition, because it's a crime. And then that infamous press conference where Pam Bondi takes to the podium and she says, I'm telling you, somebody check her. She's like, it's like Westworld. She's a robot. She's AI, except without the I. She's not good. She can't even pronounce Mexico right. She said Mexico, like Mexico, she wanted to say. So weird. Oh, we caught him. We got him. And he's being brought to justice. Somebody from the press crew said to her, well, why are you, he was stopped at a traffic stop a couple of years ago and let go. What's the difference? What's the new facts? Oh, there's new facts. What are the new facts? Donald Trump's president. That's the new fact. In fact, let's play that clip.
The traffic stop that we've seen video of from Tennessee, where Abrego Garcia was first identified by the local authorities. At the time, the Homeland Security Department declined to take custody of him. What has happened in between that time and in between the time that the government has been arguing that he was not returnable from El Salvador? What has happened since in this investigation that brought you here?
Yes, the question was in 2021, there was the traffic stop. And what has changed since then? What has changed is Donald Trump is now president of the United States and our borders are again secure.
Then somebody else in the audience says, well, does this solve the problem of the contempt hearing that's going on with Judge Xinis and the orders to return him for the immigration rulings? And she turns it over to Todd Blanche because he's smarter than she is. And he jumps in, former criminal defense lawyer for Donald Trump, and says, well, we don't know. We think it should. We don't know. Let's play that clip.
In your mind, does this resolve that issue in terms of his deportation? And should this be seen in any way as complying with the judge's order to return him to the U.S. and the Supreme Court ruling that the U.S. government should facilitate his return?
Well, there's a big difference between what the state of play was before the indictment and after the indictment. And so the reason why he is back and was returned was because there's an arrest warrant, which was presented to the government in El Salvador. So there's a big difference there. As far as whether it makes the ongoing litigation in Maryland moot, I would think so, but we don't know that. This, he just landed today.
All right, now you see all the stammering and humna of the Trump administration related to this phony thing. And then we've got the reporting, two new developments I wanted to bring you up to speed on here. One, we've got the criminal division chief, that's a top job, in the U.S. Attorney's Office for Middle District of Tennessee, resigned, Brad Schrader, because he saw this indictment as being political, that no self-respecting prosecutor would ever bring these charges. And he resigned after 15 years. He's now teaching at Vanderbilt University, law school for right now. What does that tell you? When career prosecutors who are independent have had enough, like Danielle Sassoon in the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York, also resigned over the Mayor Adams dropping of the indictment. This is the canaries in the coal mine that are, forget stress. I've heard people say this is a stress test on our justice system. This is not. This is a full frontal assault on our justice system. And people like Brad Schrader and Danielle Sassoon and others are doing our profiles in courage. So we got that development. And the latest shoe to drop is the filing by the Department of Justice to keep Abrego Garcia in pretrial detention because he can't be trusted because he's a flight risk. How is he a flight risk? All of his activities, even the ones alleged in the indictment, happen in the United States. I don't know. I haven't seen any report that he's even been on a plane in the last 5 or 8 years. The only plane that he's been on, talk about flight risk, the only flight he's been on is when he got shackled in the middle of the night, thrown into a plane to avoid federal oversight, federal judge oversight, and shipped in the middle of the night by the Trump administration to the gulag in El Salvador. That flight risk? Well, I guess he just has to avoid being being kidnapped and sent by the Trump administration out of the country. Short of that, I don't think he's a flight risk. But given his immigration status and the fight over that and this new charges, he's going to be in detention. And don't worry, his lawyers will have access to him in the federal detention center and be able to mount, I'm sure, a more than credible defense, maybe even getting this lawsuit dismissed with prejudice. We got a good judge in the Middle District. I'm sure Donald Trump will attack him. We have a good judge, an African-American judge, I think appointed by Obama, who's going to be handling the day-to-day. The day-to-day is actually handled by a magistrate judge, Judge Holmes. She's the one doing arraignment and the non-guilty plea and the bail and the pretrial detention and all that. So we'll continue to follow it, but I wanted to kind of bring you up to speed with that kind of timeline. Does this solve the problem for the Trump administration and have them avoid contempt? I don't think so. They have filed a paper telling the judge she should just stop all of her proceedings, dismiss the case. Abrego Garcia's home, ticker tape parade down Fifth Avenue, the Canyon of Heroes. I'm being sarcastic. I don't think it solves a damn thing. I think she's going to continue because they were in violation with all of these orders. And just because you decide on your own to bring them back under phony extradition doesn't solve your contempt problem. But we'll follow it all right here for you on Legal AF. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button. And then let's also come over to Legal AF, the Substack, where I post all of these documents along with analysis just for you. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.